The Leonard Fournette fallout, the Alvin Kamara fallout as well, potential news that has been just driving the past few days for Dynasty player value. We have it here on the Football Guys Dynasty Show. I'm your host, Chad Parsons, joined by Jordan McNamara. And Leonard Fournette, Jordan, I mean, I kind of get passing through waivers. I get that Jacksonville is moving forward. Leonard Fournette's not going to be a part of their plans in 2021. But for Dynasty, it makes no sense. We've talked about it before. What he's done through 3 years has been largely unappreciated, if not depressed, in terms of how that's typically valued for a top 5 NFL draft pick. And he's one that now he's searching for a team. He's available to sign with anybody. I have some very pointed and directed thoughts in terms of how this sort of plays out, how Dynasty GMs should be playing this, whether you own him or not. But Jordan, we have not talked, on our usual bat channel since, so this is very fresh for the two of us. So let's dive into Leonard Fournette. And what have been your thoughts as this has progressed through the stages recently?
Well, I'm excited whenever you say that I have very pointed thoughts. I get very excited and interested about what you're going to say. So that's good. That's good to look forward to. My initial reaction to this was that sometimes when you look at someone, and whether that's a coworker, whether that's a friend, whether that's, a family member, and everyone around them, right? They always tell you everyone around them sucks, or everyone around them's got a bad attitude, or everyone around them is the problem. Sometimes it's actually them that's the problem. And Doug Marrone, that was my initial gut reaction, was that everyone around Doug Marrone's a jerk, and he drafted all these people. I mean, that was my initial reaction. So I don't have any love lost there for Doug Marrone, but that was my initial reaction. From a fantasy perspective, I think this is without a doubt a downgrade. The question is, where's he going to land? And sort of where there's not a ton of open jobs at this point. We can sort of maybe have a bigger conversation about whether there might be, and New Orleans and these sorts of stories. But, I guess I'm looking for a situation where it's committee. He's basically a 1 injury away plus guy. Right at this particular point, he comes into a situation. I don't think he's going to land like there's just not that many kicking around right now that's week 1 starter jobs. But if he lands in a situation where, hey, we don't have the greatest starter, or, we've got maybe an undersized starter, and we want him to sort of be the big to that, right? Kansas City strikes me a little bit that way. I don't love the fit. That's kind of what I'm hoping for at this point. What I don't want to have happen is, him to go to a situation where there's basically no way out, right? I would hope that he has some viability in season as sort of a flex play, plus the upside of an injury. What I wouldn't want is Dallas to sign him as to be a straight backup, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I honestly think that if I was giving him advice, what I would say is Miami one of those spots that's more wide open than other ones, and we really don't have I guess David Montgomery could miss maybe a week. I mean, so we really don't have the interesting thing though, is we have viable, like literally if Alvin Kamara is not playing week 1, or some situation, or Dalvin Cook, I mean, those have in place plans of we can roll for as long as we need to, pretty much, with in-house options. So those are, again, moving pieces contract-wise, or hold out, some situation like that could have vacancies for week 1. But here's what I would be telling Leonard Fournette. Here's what I'm rooting for. Play patient. Again, to accrue a season. And again, I don't really think that means anything. He's a free agent looking for work. So wait out for an injury that is a clear, like it clears things for the running back 1, so that now you can go in and audition for a contract that maybe, best case in the offseason, you get a 2-year deal of moderate value where 1 year is guaranteed and the other one is sort of optional, in some form or fashion. I think that's a best case scenario. He comes in, he plays well. and transitions to a new situation. But I think from an opportunity perspective, what you said is he's not going to find maybe what he wants, or especially for 3 years, what he's been used to of higher volume work. Now, do we really think that we're going to go through no preseason, no full on 15, 20 reps, or even 9 carries and a half type of reps for any of these running backs? Do we really think we're going to get through week 1, week 2, week 3 without, things that are going to take guys out for 4 to 6 weeks plus? First of all, it doesn't happen any year, but this year especially feels like it's just set up. It's set up for some of these vacancies to occur. So for him, I wouldn't fixate on week 1. I do think it pretty much crushes Devonta Freeman, because he was kind of the guy out there you could put in this, and now you just put Fournette because, again, I think it was about $4 million, right, for his salary, and now it's, he's gonna take less if he wants to work and play this year. It's going to be for less than that number. So I think that's a big benefit to whoever the first team is that has that domino fall. It stinks for them, but that you have someone out there that you could already be kicking the tires. And boy, wouldn't that be just a complete troll job if he goes to Kansas City and all of a sudden he's siphoning all inside the 5-yard line work by just hammering in 12 touchdowns. Even if it's, I'm thinking of, what was it? There was who was the running back that had like 12 touchdowns on, 64. I think it was in Baltimore. Willis McGahee had one of those types of years. I remember.
LaRon McClain.
It is. That's what I was trying to think of. LaRon. Yeah, he had a rogue 12 touchdown year. But again, this just speaks to he could come. I think this has a bigger ramification for not feeling good almost a lot of these depth charts. What if for $1.3 million, Carolina goes, you know what? Let's get a hammer. Let's get a hammer. And now McCaffrey's getting half the carries, but he's getting all the receiving work he used to get. There's so many offshoots for this, for a team going, let's just bring in this guy for goal line and for, that. And it's not good for his fantasy, overall, because he would be siphoned from receiving work and 20 plus carries. But I think from an NFL fungibility and utility standpoint, that makes the most sense for me. Keep, and like we always say, right? Keep Kamara. What we always say with Latavius Murray, keep Kamara out of those. He's great. He's a great runner, but you're de-optimizing him when you run him up the middle on 2nd and 7. Like that's not, I know it's keeping a defense honest and these other things, but anyway, I would say patience with Leonard Fournette. And if we can transition maybe to the Dynasty buy-sell line, which I also, again, Jordan, I'll let you go first, but I have a pretty pointed take of my observation of the market so far. But what do you kind of see if you own him, if you don't own him? How much movement or activity are you really making right now?
Boxing me in, huh? That's what we're doing. I'll say this: I've seen a handful of offers. I saw straight seconds. I got an offer for a third that I laughed out the door. I think with a straight second, you're thinking, and I just sort of go to a conversion table of what's that worth, right? And typically somewhere in that range, you're looking maybe 35-40% hit rate, maybe like at best. And that's, I think, if you're optimizing positions in a good class. So,
and we probably won't be teaser.
Right. And you sort of look in that range, you're getting, later day two wide receivers, later day 2 running backs, and day 3 running backs. So you're sort of you're more in a third type of hit rate range. So in a normal class. So I sort of look at that and I say, all right, I can't really sell to buy that, right? That to me, that's clearly not. The question I would have is more of like a random future first. Do you want to, and I haven't seen these deals, so it might be more of an academic exercise, but do you want to basically take him and turn it into something liquid? Then you don't have to worry about, where he lands or any of these things, or do you want, the upside, right? Because I do think, we've seen top 10 finishes out of this running back, right? And I think if he went to Chicago, he could tell David Montgomery to go over there and rush for 1,500 yards, right? Like that's firmly in the range of outcomes. I think that's probably not super likely, but I think it's possible, right? So I think weighing those things, I'm definitely not selling for a second. I guess would be the clear thing. And I think a first is a little bit closer to where I would that would be a conversation I'd be having with myself in terms of roster construction, in terms of how it fits. Is it a roster crunch situation where I have to make cuts, right? Is this an avenue to sort of make those things happen? That would sort of be how I would think about it. I'm curious what you think.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's not going to be a ton of Fournette trades because I was going down the whole exactly the way you were, which is I think the sell, the conversation starter or approximation for making a deal, it includes a first round pick. Superflex looks better than non, but I don't think you're going to get a lot of those offers. Or if they offer a second, you move to a first. I think that stalls the deal on the other side for them. So I think you're going to sell for a first or consider selling for a first. You're going to try to offer a second. And I think that dividing line between both sides and parties is enough to probably halt a lot of the conversations if I had to take a guess. So, I mean, could you maybe be able to buy with a second and adding another player that you view as ancillary? Ultimately, you're probably going to flip them. Maybe that's someone like Raquel Armstead. I'm wondering if that's maybe the lowest we can go here. But I think that there's a clear buy-sell gap that is going to be hard to make up right now. And both sides, it's interesting because I've never seen so many fervent Leonard Fournette supporters, because they certainly are few and far between. We know because we have plenty of conversations. But it's like the past few days when you try to offer something for Fournette, and all of a sudden everybody believes that he's going to sign and still be productive and all these things. Where were all those arguments, in the last 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, et cetera, when Fournette was, posting what he has? And then the other part is, now all of a sudden people want to buy Fournette. Well, again, where is that? Where has that been, this whole time, especially in startup drafts this offseason? So very interesting in terms of that buy-sell line. What do you think about what's left in Jacksonville in terms of there's going to be bidding to be had? Maybe the most shallow of leagues, FFPC, I would imagine someone like Raquel Armstead is available when you go that low, 20 and lower, 20 and fewer. And then, mid-zone, you could have someone, Divine Ozigbo is out there a lot. Deep leagues, James Robinson's out there a lot. Chris Thompson's probably owned outside of the most shallow of the main remaining players.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thought that came to mind was Raquel Armstead. The problem with that is he's not really practicing, right? So are we going to total running back doesn't matter type situation? And they play Ozigbo, Tim Torch. I don't want him to get mad at me when I say that, but that's right. It strikes me as they don't care who it is.
Well, honestly, they shouldn't, right? I mean, team construction wise, if this year is a punt, and let's face it, it's lining up to be a big punt, it doesn't matter. But yeah.
Right. So
give him token 9 carries, 12 carries, meaningless, empty ones. Chris Thompson's going to play a ton when they're trailing in the second half. I mean, is that sort of the roadmap?
Yeah. I mean, I think I think that's it. And so I've seen sells for Raquel Armstead for a second. I would do that. I would break the keyboard to do that. If something like that for Ozigbo comes up, I'm doing that. Right. We're doing that very quickly. So I haven't personally gotten that trade done. I own a handful of Raquel Armstead shares. I don't think he's on the waiver wire. I checked. I didn't see anything that he was on the waiver wire. Ozigbo is. Chris Thompson might be in certain spots. So those would all be, I'm interested in the share, but I'm not paying like a future second or anything like that for this backfield. I'm selling it across the board for that.
Yeah, so it sounds like your line generally, we've talked about this before, is generally a second for, a running back that could have a job or the prospect that they are getting the job, something like that. Let me ask you, though, with Ozigbo, minimal pedigree, he's already changed teams. And, Raquel Armstead would be the guy with more pedigree, more of a profile, was on the team last year. Health going into week 1 is a factor. But he was playing actually the sole guy, taking a snap away every now and again from Leonard Fournette when he needed a breather last year. Is Ozigbo someone where you say there's minimal pedigree, I would take a third, clear the spot? Or do you say, there's a chance, if he actually has the role for a moment in time, you should be able to go third to second upgrade, or a second is possible and that's worth holding out for?
I would go third to a second upgrade. I would do that. I think the play is there's not a clear answer to me. And even in a best case scenario, right? These guys aren't pedigree types. This isn't a scenario where
this year only.
Right. It's not something that's going to survive to me long term. And this isn't a scenario like Dalvin Cook holding out or Kamara gets traded tomorrow, right? Like where we know sort of what we have. We don't know that. And it's not not only are these all unknowns, they're low pedigree guys, and it's not clear who it is, right? I mean, that's in a horrible offense, or what projects to be a pretty bad offense on a bad team, right? That's not a good combination. So for me, I would be looking to get out of it. If I can't get more than a third, like a just a random third, I mean, you might as well hold. I know Zigbo would be, I guess, my thought. But I don't. If I can get into the second round, even if it's third to second, I would do it. Can we talk big picture on this for a second too? Because I'm
sure.
interested in your sort of thoughts. So we have WARP, which is wins over replacement player, and it's basically a measure of, how many games your player will win for you in a fantasy season, right? The first 13 weeks would be the fantasy regular season. And so I was just looking at this because I was interested in sort of you see these polls, right? Is Leonard Fournette a hit, right? Has Leonard Fournette hit on Twitter? And like, to me, the answer, without even thinking about it, is a clear cut yes, right? 2 top 10 finishes. That's really good. When you break it down, guys, running backs and wide receivers with a top 3 ADP going back to 2008. So between 2008 and 2017, when Fournette was drafted, he ranks 4th in WARP the first 3 years of his career. 4th, right? That's of the
elite drafted rookie picks.
Yeah, that's ahead of. And to give you an idea, and this is a really critical point.
Is it McCaffrey as another one of the 3?
It's McCaffrey, Zeke, and Melvin Gordon. And just to put a fine point on this, there is not a receiver above him, right? So when you see the argument,
all rookie
Twitter,
drafted wide receivers in their first 3 years, none of them
guys that were drafted in the top 6.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah,
in the top 6.
Which
but even
Odell Beckham was not. Yeah.
He's
outside of that, yeah.
Yeah, so he but you get guys, in this range that just, I mean, it's ahead of AJ Green, it's ahead of Julio, it's ahead of Mike Evans, he's ahead of Michael Thomas, right? So all of these guys, it's the argument that, this is the reason why you take wide receivers over running backs. Like, this isn't the case to support it. The guys in his draft class, the 2017 draft class, there was 5 wide receivers that the top 5 wide receivers in that class all missed, and that includes 3 top 10 guys. And Corey Davis, one of those is Corey Davis, who's one of the best metric prospects that's ever come out of college, right? So the idea that Fournette is somehow a loss, or that Fournette is like, it's a massive hit. It really is a massive hit. And when you sort of look out a little bit further, it's not, you get guys like Kamara who weren't in the top 10, the top 6 of drafts. So he, in the top 3 picks, he is the 4th overall. And then when you sort of move out a little bit, you get a couple of guys that were a little bit rogue. When you go in the top half of the round, right, the top half of the first round, only LaShawn McCoy jumps him. So he's the 5th best top 6 pick in terms of WARP in the first 3 years. And granted, there's some value in going beyond 3 years, but I think that conversation, it's really important to understand what we're measuring and the misses that happened in that class, including Corey Davis, who was essentially a locked in pick ahead of him, including Joe Mixon, who he's been better than, including Dalvin Cook, who he's been better than, right? I mean, across all metrics, he's outproduced those 2 guys. And it's a really interesting conversation. I get this is a bad week for him, but in terms of where his career is at, right, I think to write him off as some sort of failure or that he can't do it going forward, I think those 2 things are misplaced.
Yeah, that's a really great point and presentation there, because Fournette, this is the thing that boggled my brain. I said, he's 3 years, he's got 3 RB1 finishes and points per game, and yet he is unemployed. He's 25 and unemployed. Like, that's the thing. Like, he is not on that fade away from relevance Trent Richardson track that you typically see more chances. You change teams a little bit. You get traded for someone is going to do the reclamation project thing. And then, you start fading away, all these types of things as you get more chances. And right now we are at the first stepping stone. And like you said, one thing I was thinking of when you mentioned Marone was, the assume logical reason. What is it? Assume logical coaching and reasoning or something like that.
Yeah.
Something of that ilk.
Sig's thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, so you do assume that. You assume it, but you can also, and again, I totally understand it. I mean, burn this thing to the ground. I get it. You're in a bad spot pretty much all around. I mean, where are the cornerstone players for the Jacksonville Jaguars? I mean, they are a long way away. So, I mean, how many, was it 3 years ago? Blake Bortles was leading them near the Super Bowl, venturing.
They should have been to the, if Doug Marone didn't lose any sort
go
of
into a shell.
Yeah, any sort of
play action stop.
Pick your insult that you could of someone that lacks courage. Yeah, they had them beat. They would have been
a Super Bowl team with a dominant defense. So
correct.
My point is, I mean, they are a long way off from that magical year. And so again, I get why you don't want to build around an old school 25-year-old, workhorse running back. Of Fournette that's coming up on a year that doesn't matter, followed by an off season where he's not going to be on the team, frankly. So I get all that. But just the historical, like you said, what he's done is just, it's mind blowing that he is unemployed right now. And this is where in Dynasty, we always say you own a player, you have a player on your team, and you really have to not do the, run for the hills. I got to get something right now. That roster spot is the only thing he is holding for you right now. Again, there's not some sort of there's a stock market thing going on, but it's not something where you can own him until he is playing in the some ancillary football league. You can own him. People still own Andrew Luck and Colin Kaepernick. So you have the flexibility to own players for nearly as long as you would want for nostalgic reasons, thinking they're coming back, etc. So there is not some timetable that you have to hold him. He's a 25-year-old. Jordan just laid out the plan on why he is massively underrated for what he has done and what he has done through said pedigree that is still there. That doesn't go away. That doesn't wipe away. He will have opportunities going forward. So it is very important. My final point would be very important that you hold firm, that you are stringent with, here's my asking price. If I don't get it, I'm holding until something next happens and I'm going to reassess. And you just kind of keep doing that. The price can change. You can have a different opinion. That's all fine. But we're laying out what it should be right now. And if you don't get it, it's a roster spot. It really is a roster spot. And that's why you build around a team and not saying Fournette was the reason I'm going to succeed or fail this year.
Correct. Would you take a future first right now?
In Superflex, I would.
Okay.
If it is from a strong contender and it's a stock format, that's going to cause me to chew a little bit. So I kind of wonder what would happen if they had released him back in normal free agency, where you had Gurley, Fournette, Melvin Gordon. I mean, and then you had no claimed spots by rookies yet. I wonder how this would have jostled around, because frankly, he's younger than those two other guys. And, there's a lot more flexibility for him to get somewhere. And all of a sudden, a rookie is not looking great because he landed behind Leonard Fournette. So it really seems like this is not the greatest by Jacksonville on Fournette. I know they tried to trade him. I do find it interesting they couldn't get conditional something. Like if Fournette runs for 1,500 yards, it escalates from a conditional 7th to a 4th, or like some weird escalator. Like I'm surprised the team wouldn't do that. So
isn't what happened there just the money? Because people didn't want the contract for free, right? They didn't want it for
the existing
no
contract,
picks.
exactly.
Right. They didn't want that contract. So it feels to me that.
Yeah.
We'll see. I mean, if a week goes by and they're like, yeah, no one's interested in Leonard Fournette, then maybe we reassess. But to me, it seems like that it was the contract that no one wanted. I think that's the takeaway.
Well, if he's not willing to accept $2 million, 1.5 for this year, he may not play this year. I mean, that's absolutely possible.
Right.
I think there will be openings. It's almost like there will be blood. There will be openings at some point. So if he just waits this out, he will find an opportunity to showcase what he can do on a different team. And
Yes.
frankly, a better team. So it's going to be hard not to. This is Chad Parsons, Jordan McNamara, episode 19, Football Guys Dynasty Show. Never miss a moment by subscribing to Football Guys TV. You want to subscribe, rate, and review us as well on all your podcasting platforms, which is through the Audible and Football Guys bat channels there. Sign up for the Football Guys daily email update. That also comes with breaking news alerts. So when this breaks, like Leonard Fournette, Alvin Kamara, a number of other things that, frankly, this 9 days before the season, I mean, who knows what other shoes are dropping. We only have 2, but you can probably go up to 10 with how this is going. And just injuries, everything that breaks, whether it's a Sunday of a regular season, something throughout the week, you need to be on that. And Joe Bryant is your daily guide for all that news and instant analysis. Sign up at footballguys.com/free. And week 1 is already flowing. But if you haven't had any of your redrafts yet, there's also a robust daily fantasy sports package over there at Football Guys. All of those things are humming and heading towards week 1. But all of the draft tools that you are privy to as a subscriber, there's also, we just saw it on the communication channel for Football Guys, which is the #1 app. You know, isn't it the number? Is it the #1 sports app, Jordan? I don't want to misquote.
#1 paid app on the Google Play Store.
Paid app in Google Play Store. Exactly. In the entire world, which I think someone had the nice quip, take that Minecraft. but again, these are things that can absolutely game change you. Redraft when your league is coming up. And I know Labor Day is a huge weekend coming up for drafting. So you don't want to be without those services over at footballguys.com. So Jordan, I see that, again, folks that aren't watching on YouTube, you are Sans facial hair. I'm always Sans facial hair on this show. And I have a quick story, but you've been growing it for a while. This was, you had the beard and facial growings. And actually, you said you didn't cut the coif on top, but it actually does look, maybe it's just combed today. Maybe that's the notable difference.
I have cut my hair. I did cut my hair. I did cut my hair a couple weeks ago. I hadn't cut my hair. I had trimmed the sides and basically sort of give myself a really long mane on top with sort of trimmed up sides just so I could wear a hat.
Seen you for 3 months with a beard. It does look strange now.
Yeah, I'd have to go back. It'd be interesting to see a montage of my appearance. And I actually looked at, because that was right around when we started. I think I had a beard when we first did the show. And I've had one ever since, and I shaved yesterday. I had to take, I was going to keep it, but I had to take professional pictures at work. They sent me to get an actual headshot picture.
It's picture day at school, at Jordan's school.
Yeah. So I figured I can't really keep the beard for the professional pictures for the website. So although I will say I found, some possible decorations for the wall behind me, so I'm excited about that. Hopefully it'll be get some stuff on the wall behind me for future shows. But is it
one of those posters from the 1980s or 1990s?
No, we'll get a little
Michael Jordan
poster behind me, you know what I mean? So
a mural.
We're gonna work on that.
A mural or something.
Yeah, so we'll see. But so that was critical shaving, and it feels good. It feels different. I actually lost weight since so
now you can enjoy your benefits.
Yeah, and I looked at pictures and I was like, man, and plus my hair's longer too, so I'm like, man, I look a lot skinnier because
balances out the whole thing going on.
Yeah. Okay. So it's an interesting change when I look in the camera, look in the mirror.
Oh, it's noticeable. Yeah. Well, did you already submit your Football Guys staff picture, like the biopic? Did you just find one from the past?
I haven't. I'm still a JM in the staff chat, so I'll have to go and.
Well, no. For the site, there's actually a staff bio page. Anyway, but but there's always a picture. You can submit one from. It doesn't have to be a current. I mean, some people it doesn't look too current. But yeah, that's another one. If you're gonna snap one, you probably want to have the beardless version. But we got a lot of bearded up of staff writers and stuff.
We do. We have strong beards.
Jordan, you're gonna roll your eyes. Yeah, you're gonna roll your eyes at least twice when I tell you that I shaved last week. I shaved extraneously early. Usually I shave on Tuesdays. I shaved on Saturday or Sunday. So I rolled into Tuesday. It was fine, early in the week. But then I swear today was the day. It felt like I had a beard of bees because it was 9 days or something, 9 days of growth. And I know people say, that second week, third week, you really got to push through it's all worth it. The juicy beard game, that you are you get the juices dripping from your chin, enjoying all your trials there. But it really itches so bad, and I can't get past the 7 to 12 days. I've never pushed through the wall. We'll talk about the athletic wall that it's so bad. I was like, how does anybody do this? I know it doesn't feel like that when you're 2 months in, but oh God. And I could look forward to shaving. I've been busy all day, and I was like, you know what? I will find time, my friend. There is no way I will go. Number one, I was like, I thought it would be funny if Jordan comes in with no facial hair, and then I come in with, I don't know if you can really tell, but with 9 days, which would be for me like a forest. But I was like, so we change roles, but I was like, I can't deal with it. I can't wake up one more day feeling like this. I'm going to need calamine lotion.
I grew a no shave November beard last November, and so we're 3 weeks or so. I started a little late, so I think it was like maybe 2 or 3 weeks in. We're at Thanksgiving, and they had a cat, and I'm allergic to cats, and it was the worst experience because my face just itched. It just was itching, and it was like I was allergic to the cat and the beard. It was time to shave.
Dander was sticking into the hair there.
Yeah, it was a tough experience.
Never know what was going on. Let's talk a few dynasty trades. And actually, we got a Leonard Fournette one. We have a sighting. We have a Leonard Fournette trade sighting. So we just discussed them. We might as well lead off here. We have straight up. You never really see 1-for-1 same position, but we have found one. Chris Carson in a stock format for Leonard Fournette. Where do you stand on Chris Carson? Where are you on the scale?
That's an interesting one. Pre him getting cut, it wouldn't have been much of a debate. I would have been on Fournette. I think this is an interesting one, how you're weighing this year versus future. I would just say I think that Fournette's got the much more resilient profile in terms of, you look at guys. I mean, there's a risk that, and all running back roulette's going to be really interesting because, and honestly, maybe it lets Fournette in a better position as he's sort of on a prove it deal with the way contracts are going to work, because I'm not sure, I don't know how the Kamara deal happens under the cap, right? With how bad the cap's going to be next year. So Carson's sort of in that situation where I'm not sure he's on a firm 1 year window for me.
And you still got Rashad Penny there, who's on his rookie deal and just needs to get healthy. Yeah, there's a lot of variables for sure.
Yeah,
because that's the thing. What's more valuable this year? And then if you fast forward to January 1, which one of these guys do you want? Because those could be different answers.
Yeah. So I can see the case for Chris Carson in the near term, unless he's a major contributor on a team that I really expect to contend. I'm probably taking Fournette.
Yeah, I think that's the prudent long-term bet. And I actually think, these NFL teams, they're working a lot more in terms of, we're seeing moving and shaking, not being happy with contracts. Let's move on. Let's fix this. We saw a lot more stability with players in general, with the team fits, all these things sticking with these guys longer. Even 5 years ago, it feels like this microwave of, you're getting teams that, if this is smarter, if this is, anything going on of saying, if we're not happy, we're going to fix it. And now, there's minimal allegiance to players in general. And we're kind of seeing that playing out with some of these running backs, especially. All right, FFPC, we got a hot player, Fournette, not so hot, but we've got Antonio Gibson, who the last few rookie drafts I've seen, Jordan, first round Antonio Gibson slipping in there, maybe 110 to 112 for Matt Breida, Ian Thomas with the tight end premium. And this might just be a quick reminder to keep holding Antonio Gibson.
It doesn't seem like it's too expensive for him, right? I mean, yeah. The interesting part will be is where does the Fournette roulette stop? Right? Where does that merry-go-round stop? Because he has the ability to really hamper someone, whether it's a guy
for this year. Yes.
Yeah. Right. And maybe into the future, right? If he signs with someone and it goes well, right? I mean, that's a risk that we run, right? So, or not we, but that player runs. So, I think Gibson's the play here. Especially in a 2-for-1 situation, FFPC, it's always good to, when we had our FFPC experience, it was more, let's get pretty tight at the end of the roster, right? We wanted a lot of clear-cut decisions, so going 2 for 1 makes a lot of sense in that range. So I would take the upgrade there and take Gibson.
And 2 guys I think we found, right? I think we took Antonio Brown, so we got some clarity there. And I think Cam Newton was another, we maybe even took a third one, but Cam Newton clarified to where we're probably keeping him, So both kind of worked out there, and you don't want them all to actually provide clarity forward because that just leads to bigger decisions. All right, 12-team Superflex. We got Julio Jones, Chuba Hubbard from next year for DeAndre Swift, and a third for next year.
How much does the team construct matter for you here?
I was actually going to say, I mean, the fact that Hubbard's in there makes this interesting because it's not a clear contender for rebuilder type construction.
Right.
That's the thing. Like, so Julio, I mean, because Hubbard could easily, and just to put in the Devy slant here, I mean, he is earmarked as of now. I mean, he's going to be a first round rookie pick. So it's kind of 2 firsts for DeAndre Swift, kind of construction there. And you would expect, Julio Jones to tremendously help you in this year, next year. I mean, just again, you're on a tighter window with an older player. But I mean, he outscores DeAndre Swift how many years starting now before this, independent of market value. But I mean, 2 years, this year, next year are basically locked. And then you still have Hubbard on the back end. I don't know. This is very rich for Swift.
Yeah, it seems like
for missing out in the draft. Yeah.
It seems like a big time 2-way go, right? It gives you a lot of different options, which is near term.
I love that term. I love that. Yeah. You're speaking my language, Jordan. I'm listening. 2-way go. Yeah. And explain to people what a 2-way go is.
Yeah, it gives you multiple options, right? It gives you you can play, and this is the thing that I think strategically, whether it's from a startup draft or in rookie draft setting, or even in a trade like this, giving yourselves multiple different outs, like if you're playing poker, or just in terms of thinking of going down a hallway, right? Like if there's more doors that you can open, right? I like more of those options, right? And same way in cards, like the more options you can get in terms of outs, right? Those hands are better. So with this, you have a near term, a right now window with Julio, and you've got the ability of Chuba Hubbard to come in, whether that's next year or the year after, and sort of blend the two, right? So that's I think a pretty savvy strategy to execute and sort of be able to do both things. And I really like that aspect of this trade.
Yeah, and again, Julio can have it so you win the league now. You can actually win your league, but you can win the trade over the next couple of years. And even if, let's say, Julio Jones gets hurt sometime this year and he walks away, this is his last season, you still have Chuba Hubbard in your back pocket to say, right, I could get this right straight up versus DeAndre Swift. And that's not a reach. That's not, he's not going to be like probably a 4th round rookie pick where it's like he fritters away. I mean, he is right. He's next year eligible. He'll be a part of next year's class in all likelihood. And again, you can get that right straight up versus Swift. Now, this one was Alvin Kamara, and it's a good discussion point. We can finish off here talking about Alvin Kamara because this was a few days ago, and obviously it looks a little bit different prism, even if it's just 2 to 3%, whatever, today. But that's Alvin Kamara, and this is a draft that has yet to occur, and we've seen some August adjustments to rookie drafts and what you might expect to see for 107 and 108 in a stock 12-team PPR league.
If it was Superflex, we might be having a different conversation in terms of those pick values. I guess let's take a step back. The top 5 that we had in rookie drafts in, call it May, right, where you had basically the top 5 running backs: Edwards-Helaire, Jonathan Taylor, Swift, Dobbins, and Akers.
Just straight off the board, 1 through 5 in some order.
Yeah, and it was basically like 75% of drafts, it went some combination of those guys. Then you'd get someone else to crack it, maybe a quarter of the time. What's the chance that one of those guys slides to 7?
6 is a really good chance because I've been seeing CeeDee Lamb. He's been cracking 103, 104. I mean, infinitely more than I saw in May. So he's getting up there. Now you need another one though. Could Swift, because he's dinged up right now, probably not projected to have, week 1, week 2, big impact here. Could he be the one that falls to 7? You need Judy ahead of him. Rager is probably going to be one that, talking with a friend of ours, probably going to, he could make it to 9 or 10 or 11. And it's, with AJ Dillon maybe going ahead of him, Gibson could go ahead of him, Pittman could go ahead. So you're seeing some mashup here, and you typically do in the weeks leading up to the season. So, but 7, you feel better about 6 being able to corral one of those running backs. But yeah, so you have 7, 8. I mean, worst case, is that like, Judy Reger, or,
Right.
I mean, how does that look? I mean, January, I would not be surprised if you get 2 picks that one of them is Kamara for one of those guys straight up is within the realm of outcomes, is what I'll say. Maybe it's not likely, but to me, this is still a little low. We do have some ambiguity. I'm actually more, I get the spidey senses going up, and we got Gene Bramall from the Football Guys staff to weigh in here about the epidural. Like, that was the thing that caught me. I was like, epidural.
Is he pregnant?
Yeah. I was like, Jordan can weigh in on, what epidurals are typically used for. But he mentioned, it's herniation, and this is far more common than you hear about. So that, I don't know if that makes you feel better or worse. That it happens a lot. So Kamara blends into the violent game of football, and just the fact that they're dealing with a lot on a regular basis that we may not, react to or be factoring in. So it kind of levels it, if they're all kind of going through the same thing. But Kamara not in New Orleans, the perfect fit factor, going back to when he was drafted. I'll tell you, Jordan, I don't have the warm fuzzies. If he's changing teams, and yes, he's gonna, the assumption, if he's traded, he would get paid. So a team is gonna A, give up a pick, B, give up a contract to him. They're gonna use him. The optimization factor can't be as great as in Sean Payton. I struggle to believe that. So that is the variable out there for me.
Except that one place that would optimize him, Tampa. But I don't think the trade's going to happen in the division. I just can't imagine that happening. But that would be the place that he could go.
Breaks all rules. Okay.
Yeah. So.
Okay. So again, I think
I would take Kamara, though. I think I would.
Yeah. Now let me ask you this: what if it was 5-7?
Yeah. So Rager, if you're looking for a running back, I think it hurts you that Rager got hurt, right? Because
he was on a track that he could have been going 5-6. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I actually have a sort of a keeper league where we keep 7, but usually it's the elite rookies. It's 16 teams, so it's really diluted in terms of the veteran talent out there. So it's really rookies off the board, and I own 8 and 11, right? So I'm trying to gauge in terms of, could Gibson crack it, right? And it has a very redrafty feel. So could I get a discount on a guy like DeAndre Swift? That might happen more in a keeper league setting that I'm in. I don't think that's the same with this. So in a more dynasty specific setting, if it's 5, I think I feel a little bit better about it, because then at least I'm guaranteeing myself a shot at one of those guys. If it's 5 and 7, right, there's a shot that I get 2, which is pretty interesting.
I think I think I mean, I don't know what your senses are tapping right now in terms of the calculus here, but if you were to get 2 21-year-old strong profiled running backs for a currently, I believe he's 24 and change, so mid prime, he's burnt through 3 years, pretty much has 3 years left. And again, it's not that you can't produce after that, but that's sort of your prime window. So you're getting 2 guys at the start. Yeah. And then you're basically plus 6 years, plus 6 peak years of guys that you get 2 chances, so the odds that you roll snake eyes on both. Yeah. So that's the interesting part to me. Now you could also, again, I'll play devil's advocate again. I mean, if you could stick at 7, and what would it cost you to move from 8 to 5? But again, you got to find a dance partner. Right. So, but again, so it sounds like this is close. It's not quite enough to suck you in and just click accept pretty easily. But yeah, that's why these 21-year-old pedigreed running backs this year are so intriguing. Is that what they project to be, and especially how much they could be worth relatively quickly once they start rolling.
No doubt. And I would say this too, this might be a scenario. It's tough to do this in a league where you don't really know the people, but if it's a scenario where you actually know people, you say, hey, I've got this offer, right? Keep the offer close to your chest, but say, hey, what would you if I had a mid first, right? What would it take to move up to 104, right? Try and grease the wheels on that trade before you do this, and say, hey, it would cost, player X or pick Y or whatever, right? Then at least you have an idea when you make the trade. So if you want to do it, we call it a cascade trade, where you make one trade and then it flows into a second one, right? This might be a scenario where you try and explore that, and just take the temperature of people up the board and say, hey, would you be willing to move down to, if I had a mid first, would you be willing to move down, and what would it cost? Right. That's a different type of play that could sort of get you in that line to get one of the running backs that you're looking for.
Yep, that's a great point. And one thing I didn't mention mid-show, just to put it here at the end, is that the training camp reports over at Footballguys are another key feature. And we've already got week 1 projections. But again, signing up, checking out the content for this year, you're going to see all the things that are weekly features, have you better prepared than ever before. The My Football Guys is my go-to thing that I would promote, just because it makes managing, if you're in any more. And again, this is Dynasty, redraft, keeper. It doesn't matter. In-season management is in-season management. And what I love is it syncs your leagues. You go in there, and it's going to highlight the players you own every single week in the projections when you go to set your lineup. And you can see quickly, how you kind of stand for the week. It also is going to highlight free agents. So that automatically you can do lineup considerations, how you're looking for the week, as well as your waiver decisions, things that you might add, potential spots that you may be looking for a trade. All those things are seamlessly integrated together on a number of hosting platforms that you can import in. And again, it's such a huge time saver. I would say if you're in 3 leagues or more, I mean, it's a no-brainer. That, to me, that one feature, My Footballguys, which is a tab on the homepage, is absolutely a big enough time saver for multi-league owners to be worth the price of membership alone. If you never read a thing, never do anything else but go to that tab for the entire season, again, that would be my biggest selling point and biggest promotion I could. Is there one thing, Jordan, in terms of managing in season, and now we're just a week away or so, that you would promote in terms of a key addition to your toolbox?
That's a great feature. Using what you said, that's a great feature, and it gives you all the different optimizing, right? Just keep. I think that's the key word with that is optimizing. I mean, the Draft Dominator is, if you're doing drafts, whether it's in the next, what do we got, a week or so left? I mean, whether you're doing drafts, whether it's keeper leagues or whether it's your redraft leagues. I mean, I don't do a ton of redraft, but the Draft Dominator is totally worth it for the select couple of leagues that I actually do a redraft in. So so that, obviously all our audio content, the projections are up. I already started taking a peek at defensive projections so I could do week 1 ads. So, I'm just thinking a little bit ahead and trying to optimize and pick some of those matchups. That Chargers matchup against, I think it's week 1 against the Bengals. I was going to pick on Joe Burrow a little bit, but looks less good now with Derwin James. But all of that stuff, I mean, it's been really interesting. I do the training camp reports for 3 teams: Rams, 49ers, and Chargers. And so they've been really interesting in terms of watching different battles and stuff evolve. And I think we get more clarity on guys like Mostert and those situations. And what the situation, the fallout's going to be from Mike Williams being hurt and all those things, right? So if you're not, if you're catching up right now, right, just go glance at some of those in terms of, it'll get you some of the news items that you need to know for it to be actionable, especially like Jacksonville. I mean, thinking about these types of situations, it's homework that I am gonna, that I've been doing and I'm gonna keep doing through the end of the week.
Over under 8.5 wide receivers you've mentioned over the training camp reports for the 49ers. Did we see a Kevin White sighting? Did you mention Kevin White?
I did. I got Kevin White in there. JJ Nelson. Let's see. Yes. Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Trent Taylor, Kendrick Bourne. Austin. Where am I at? 6. Tavon Austin, 7. Let's see who else. I think I'm taking the under.
It's close.
Jordan Reed, man. I'll tell you, Jordan Reed.
He's going to be at week 1 interesting, right? Officially.
He's going to be week 1. Hey,
2 tight end sets.
Put him in the big slot and just
You know what I say? Burn that candle while you got it, right? I mean, if Jordan Reed is healthy, hey, let's use him, because in October he may not be.
Yeah, and honestly, like in terms of he as crazy as it sounds, outside of Kittle, I think he's their most proven player.
I know.
Right?
And look what they use with Kyle Juszczyk, right? I mean, they can put Kyle Juszczyk to work. They can certainly use Jordan Reed if he's got some left in the tank. Yeah, he's
all the reports say that he's looked great. So,
no one's touching him yet.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But physically, he looks good. And, I just hope he can sort of hang in there. And he's talked about having a better mindset, which is, good to hear too. So, I just hope for health for him. And then, if we get
Everything else is
fantasy
gravy.
production. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. All right. Well, in this episode, Jordan, who's at McNamara Dynasty, we don't say it a lot on the podcast. I'm at Chad Parsons NFL on Twitter. So you can find us between episodes. Also find our work over there at footballguys.com. We discussed a variety of things. We went into the Leonard Fournette situation. Of course, we talked kind of the macro view there, not just the next week or two. Alvin Kamara, we got to that eventually. I knew we shouldn't cover the Saints early on because I was like, we got this Kamara trade in the pocket. I'm sure we'll expand there. We talked about contending type deals. We talked about consolidating deals. And what I love, the two-way go trade, bound to be discussed again on this show. So until next time, good luck in your Dynasty leagues.